Wait a bit, say hi to a couple friends, and open everything up. Hope everyone. Oh, we see lots of friends. Great. Um, I'll kick things off, Caroline. So just want to say good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar about EV infrastructure planning in the German state of Baden Wuerttemberg. I'm Dale Medeiros, and I have the joy of working as a senior regional planner for the Northern Virginia Regional Commission. We are a regional council of governments representing the 13 county cities and towns and 2.6 million people of Northern Virginia. Today, we're going to talk about electric vehicle infrastructure planning and some inspiring stories from across the pond in the German state of Baden-Württemberg. And the reason it is about a third of our greenhouse gas emissions for the Northern Virginia region emanate from mobile sources. And across the region, local governments have prioritized the promotion of electric vehicle ownership to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases and other air pollutants. In 2026, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments reported that electric vehicle ownership across the greater metropolitan Washington, D.C. region could grow between 464,000 and 495,000 vehicles by 2030. The Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments further projected that by 2030, this demand for EVs could require possibly the construction of approximately 13,000 to 29,000 publicly available level 2 EV charging ports, and perhaps between 500 to 1,000 publicly available fast charging ports. As the local governments of the region work to design, plan, and develop electric vehicle infrastructure, they're looking with greater regularity to lessons from across the Atlantic to pioneering states like Baden-Württemberg. The southern German state has long been a pioneer in regional transportation planning in general, but particularly the policy and technical innovations concerning local EV zoning, design, and land use management. And it's probably no surprise that Baden-Württemberg and the Stuttgart region is the home to the automobile. So that makes today's presentation by Caroline Winhuber even more interesting and special. A little bit about our guest speaker. Ms. Caroline Winhuber is project manager for the Climate Protection and Energy Agency Baden-Württemberg. That's the state agency that is in the business of acting as a central hub supporting municipalities, companies, and citizens in implementing climate protection measures, focusing on energy efficiency, renewable energies, and sustainable mobility, like electric vehicles. Caroline is a trained industrial engineer, sustained mobility expert, and project manager specializing in electric mobility and charging infrastructure. She spent 5 years working with German car companies, working on autonomous public development, and has authored municipal advisory brochures such as Mobility for All. She's also actively recognized as an expert for the Global Alliance for Feminist Transport. Just a little bit about housekeeping. Caroline will walk us through a slide deck about her work, how it plays out in Baden-Württemberg, and then during the presentation, if you wish, please park any questions into the Q&A or the chat box if you wish. But we want to make this as engaging and participatory as possible. If you have any questions and you wish to be unmuted, please just send me a text and we'll be happy to do so. And then we hope to get everybody out before 1 o'clock for their lunches. Caroline, thank you so much. I'm going to open up the slide deck for you to share and just instruct me when you want me to move on from one slide to another.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dale. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Germany, far away, but still nice to be in the same meeting now. Most of it is said already. Thank you, Dale, for the nice introduction. So yeah, as you said, I have a background in the automotive industry. I spent 5 years working for an automotive supplier, one of the biggest we have in Germany. And after that, I changed to the state agency. I wanted to engage more in politics and help the municipalities because I found out for myself that this is such an important, let's say, institution that just makes things better and helps daily life of the people to improve. So that was my motivation to move away from industry and also get the the policy insights. Yeah, next to my work, I spent the last 15 years traveling around a lot. I also had the pleasure to come to the United States, sadly only to Michigan, not to Virginia yet, but I hope that will change. Um, I worked in China and Mexico and in France for some months. And I always try to travel overland and use public transport and try to move how the local people move and use rental cars and try to engage in traffic to find out about the local problems and also see how people live their daily lives with their own mobility needs and that always really inspires me and um, yeah, shows me where we still have to make some improvements. And I think you mentioned the carbon emissions, but of course there is more. There is safety issues. There is noise pollution and all of that. So yeah, that's what drives me to work for the sustainability and mobility topics as well. I think we can go to the next slide. And start with the strategy of the state of Baden-Württemberg. I don't know if all of you have been there yet, so if there are questions about Baden-Württemberg or you want me to explain something more deeply or you need some more context for things I said, then as Dale said, please send a message and ask some questions. It's quite difficult for me to know your backgrounds and to grasp whether everything is understandable. And I'm also sorry that this picture is only in German. I tried to translate it here on the right side. So this shows the strategy of Baden-Württemberg, where we want to be in the year of 2030. So that's only 4 years left to reach these goals. And um, I think for this meeting today, the most important thing is that the goal is that every second car drives in a climate neutral way, so without local emissions. And what's also interesting is that every second ton of logistic material also drives without emissions, or let's say at least without the local emissions. So uh, if it drives by electricity, of course, there might be some emissions happening, but at least, yeah, we try to reduce it. And yeah, there's more about it. There is also that we want to increase the number of people who use public transport, and we also want to motivate people to use the bicycle and to also make some of their paths, some of their ways by foot in order to be more active, to be in an healthy condition, and to, of course, also reduce emissions and reduce the congestions we always have because of too many cars. And that brings me to one of the problems I want to talk about, because we have some contradiction here, and I think maybe in your region you have the same one. We want to reduce the number of cars that drive in our cities, but of course we also are a high-tech area where a lot of industry is happening, a lot of cars are produced. So if we want to reduce the numbers of cars, then at the other side, we might get some problems with our automotive industry. So I think that is one of the main challenges we face in Baden-Württemberg between sustainability and economy at the other side. And that's also probably why these goals are really hard to reach for us. I can tell you already that we are far away from every second car without emissions. So I really doubt that we will achieve this goal by 2030 because, of course, industry is really strong and many people are working there. And yeah, it's actually the most important industry we have. And if we want to reduce cars, we have to find other ways of how to gain money and where people can work. So yeah, this contradiction is a huge challenge that we are facing in Baden-Württemberg, and I think many of you can relate to it. In our work, we focus on electric mobility and charging infrastructure, and that moves us to the next slide where we can see the status quo of Baden-Württemberg. Can you please go on? Yes, thank you so much. So here we see the whole map of Germany, and we focus on Baden-Württemberg, which is in the lower left side where the blue arrow comes from. And here we have in June 26, so quite new, around 30,000 level 2 charging points that are publicly accessible. So these numbers are only the public charging points. On top comes, of course, private ones at citizens' houses or also at, for example, company parking lots. And we have around 6,000 DC fast charging points. These numbers rank us among the highest in Europe when it comes to the number of electric vehicles. So the ratio between available charging infrastructure and electric vehicles is really high in Baden-Württemberg. And we are proud to say that the availability of charging infrastructure is not a problem here. So everyone who has a EV or wants to have one, there are hurdles and there are problems, but the availability of charging infrastructure is not an yeah, it's not the case. So some people have the fear, of course, of not finding a charger, but as soon as they have a car, and then they inform themselves and look into the maps, they see, oh, there's plenty of it. We had a funding since the year 2019, which made it possible to build charging infrastructure. You see it on the left side in a square of 10 to 10 kilometers. I think that's like 6 miles. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There's at least one level 2 charger, and in a square of 20 to 20 kilometers, so around 12 miles to 12 miles, there's at least one DC fast charger. So this grid is there in Baden-Württemberg. It's not a goal or something we strive to, it's the current situation. So whenever you have a car in the next 10 kilometers, you can be definitely sure to find at least an AC level 2 charger. And this, yeah, gives us quite some resilience in order to make people switch from a combustion engine to an electric vehicle because we can guarantee this availability. That's something special, I guess, and that's one of the biggest achievements I think from the ministry we had, and we had a green party ministry in the last 15 years, and they really had a strong focus on bringing that forward, and yeah, that's where we are right now, and that's yeah, quite a huge achievement, I guess. Still, goals are higher. You see it in the right corner here on my slide. So the goal for 2030 is actually to double the number and to get around 60,000 publicly available charging points, which is really high goal and probably difficult to reach, but we're still working on it. So what's also to mention is that especially in the rural areas, um, it might be difficult to find chargers, but even here we have this grid that you can see on the left side. So that counts for whole Baden-Württemberg, even for the rural areas, and make sure that no one is left behind, no district is left behind, no matter how rural it is. Yeah. Okay, I think there we can go to the next slide and have a look on how we got there and how municipalities build their charging infrastructure. So the most important point here is that we foster this local autonomy. Like we, as the land of Baden-Württemberg, do not tell the municipalities what to do. We set the goals, we set the frameworks, of course, and we provide some strategy and some fundings, but the actual operation and the way of how to get there has to fit to the local needs, and that's why we let the municipalities decide by themselves where they want to build infrastructure and how they want to do it. What they all have in common is that most of them start with assessing the needs. Especially in the big cities, it's quite important to have a structured process because if not, then the charge point operators, those who will operate the charging infrastructure later, they will all like build in the same area where we have a lot of traffic, many people driving by every day, and other areas where people live in the neighborhoods, there won't be any charging infrastructure. So that's why every city makes some strategic concepts. And we see one example here on the left side. It's from the district of Böblingen, close to Stuttgart, where they build a really, really detailed concept assessing where they have what need. And they also made some questionnaire for citizens where they ask, where do you want a charge point? Where do you see the need? And they all consolidated it into this concept, which then later helped them to build up in a structured way and not having some chaotic situation later. On the right side, we see a list of Karlsruhe. Karlsruhe is one of the most important cities in Baden-Württemberg, also with a lot of industry and a lot of traffic. And here they, in this list, showed like for every part of the city, what needs they have, and if there is already some application from charge point operators for this area, or if not, so that as an external company, you want to apply to build infrastructure in Karlsruhe, and you can check this list of where you can still apply to and where the need is already fulfilled. And yeah, that gives quite a good overview and set things right to, as I said, not end up in a chaotic situation and make sure that no part of the city is left behind. Because what we have to say is that there are areas that are really, yeah, in let's say attractive to build charging infrastructure, and others not at all. So we have two ways how cities handle this. One is, yeah, I think we call it expression of interest. So the city gives this list, for example, and the charge point operators can do a bid, I think you call it. So they can um, bid for the site usage, and the city can then um, think of a concession model. Um, and if it's a really attractive place, for example, they can even charge some rent, and the city can gain money with it. And if it's a less attractive place, then the city can, for example, give the site for free, um, and with that handle a bit this problem of having more attractive and less attractive sites. Another approach, and that counts more for the rural areas, is a kind of cluster tender, cluster pooling. Um, so if you have an area that is really attractive because you have many cars there, many traffic, many people driving through every day, then you cluster it together with less attractive areas. Um, and if you do um, the procurement process, you give it into a package, and you say, okay, if you want this attractive place, then you also have to um, build infrastructure in a less attractive place. And we see this a lot in the rural areas where we have one city center, for example, and then a lot of place around it where there is not so much traffic, not so many people driving through. And yeah, by bundling several locations into one procurement package, that attracts more CPOs, more charge point operators, and also ensures that even the smaller communities can build up infrastructure and aren't left behind. So I think these two approaches are quite crucial, and we see them both a lot in throughout Baden-Württemberg. That's for the process. You can go to the next slide, and there we can see how the needs are assessed. Because that's quite interesting. We have a central tool. No, please go back to the screenshots of the maps. There must be
This one.
no, there must be a slide in between. Slide number 6. Yeah, this one.
This one. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. Here we can see a tool that helps municipalities to assess the needs. Again, only in German available. Sorry for that. I briefly try to explain it. So these tools are provided by the nationwide agency, so by Berlin, let's say, and they assess for every city in Germany in a really, really high resolution the needs. They know how many cars are there, how many car owners, how many companies, how many electric vehicles, how much charging infrastructure is there already, and they also have some investigations of how will that evolve? Will there be more cars in the future? Will there be less? And from all of that, they calculate like a heat map that you can see on the left of this picture, where you see low needs from green to high needs in red, and you can see here quite obvious that in Stuttgart City there is still more need than we have already. And in the more rural areas, we have quite low requirements and do not have to build as much charging infrastructure as in the more urban areas. And then there is one other really useful tool that most of the municipalities use. It's the tool on the right side. And here it's a bit like a dating platform, let's say. So the municipality can put in a site where they want to build charging infrastructure, and then the charge point operators can apply to it. So it's like a matching platform for the municipality to find charge point operators. And you see the green bubbles here that you can zoom in more than if you're interested, and you can find out as the charge point operator, okay, there is two sites available in this area or three there, and you can apply to it directly via this tool, which makes processes really easy and low level to reach out to each other without difficult bureaucracy processes. Most of the municipalities I talk to, they tell me that they use these tools and that they find them really helpful. If you want to know more about it, we can have a deeper look later. I can also do a live demonstration if you want. But as I said, it's all in German and maybe it's all also a bit too deep. But just as you know, we have these tools, and if you want to know more about it, of course, you can also contact me later. Okay, that's for the process of how we build. Oh yeah, thank you. That's the link. Someone posted it already. We have Standorttool and Flächentool, so two different tools, one for assessing the needs and one for providing the sites. Okay, Dale, I think we can move on. And I will show you some of the fundings we have at the moment, or we had in the last time, to foster electric mobility. I will start on the right side with the nationwide fundings that come from the state of Germany. So at the moment, we have a funding for citizens for private cars. So if you buy an EV, you can get some financial support for it, up to, I guess, 3,000 euro. And this is considered as quite a social funding because you get more money if you gain less, if you have less wage, or how you call it, if you gain less money at work. Less salary means more funding. And we also have a funding here from the state of Germany for charging infrastructure for private apartment buildings. So that is not for municipalities, it's for the local people who live in their apartments. They can get a funding for their charging infrastructure. Then we have a funding for public electric buses and also for charging infrastructure for heavy duty vehicles. So also for companies, for logistic companies, they can get this funding if they build charging infrastructure, for example, at their logistic hub, to get this financially support. And then every yeah, every state can on top put their own fundings. And as Baden-Württemberg tries to foster electric mobility, there's a lot of fundings that come on top of the nationwide fundings. And I want to give some examples here. So Baden-Württemberg supports truck chargers with like HPC, really high voltage chargers. If they are operated with renewable energies, then Baden-Württemberg supports this. Also, there is this, it's called LGVFG. You see the abbreviation in the brackets. That's a funding only for municipalities, so not for private people and also not for companies, just for municipalities. And here they can get support for bus charging infrastructure, for procurement of buses, also for public parking garage if they provide charging opportunities there, and also some other equipment things, just like the grid connection, energy storages, and also rooftop solar can be financially supported here again for, as I said, just for municipalities. Um, Also, with the focus on renewable energies, there is a funding for publicly accessible charging infrastructure, also for level 2 chargers, so not only for trucks and buses, but for curbside charging, everything like this. Municipalities can obtain the charge at BW funding, which is used a lot. So most of the municipalities I talked to, they applied for it already, and they got money from this in the last years for all of the infrastructure they built up. Another really interesting thing is the last one here, because here it's about people who work in the local authorities. Because we know that like all the cities that tell us, oh, we want to build charging infrastructure, but we don't have the people to do it. Or also for other means of transport, they say, oh, we want to build more bicycle lanes, or we want to make public transport better, but we don't have the people, we don't have the capacity to work on it. And that's why Baden-Württemberg decided to also fund the salary of the people who work in the local authorities. So if you put a new person in place that works on, for example, electric mobility, you get half of the salary of this person paid by Baden Wuerttemberg, which is really attractive and which makes it even for smaller communities possible to put someone in place who works on these topics and who improves the mobility system in the local area where you need it, not only on the state level, but really um, for the daily life for the people. And this funding is used a lot, and it's a nice thing, I guess, we have in Baden-Württemberg, that this funding exists, and it also comes with networking activities because all these people who are in place there through this funding, they know each other, they talk to each other. We have some networking events where they all come together. So all the, let's say, electric mobility managers who work in the different cities around the state. They all know each other and they can talk to each other whenever they need it. When they have questions, they contact them. They contact each other and they are in really close connection, which really helps to get things going. And yeah, that is quite some innovative thing, and it's only in Baden-Württemberg that we have it. So no other state in Germany has this, and we know that others are a bit like jealous about it. They say, "Oh, we would like to have this as well," but of course, it's a matter of money and of organization to put this in place. At the right bottom corner, you see our website from the state agency, where we have an overview page about all the fundings that you can get, and you can filter, and it's with a special focus on municipalities to make it easy for them to navigate through the jungle of fundings, which is often difficult. I guess some of you know the problems that fundings are difficult to find and then difficult processes to apply. And this with this website, we really try to help them. And we have some people just for the contact. If there are questions about fundings, then they can reach my colleagues who are in charge of that. So there's two people working at the state agency just to support with the fundings, and try to make things less complex for the local authorities and make it possible for them to use it and to apply for the fundings. Okay, let's move on to the regulatory frameworks. Next slide. Yes, slide number 8. So this is just some examples, but from my point of view, these three are the most important ones. And I want to give you a short insight because, yeah, I think these frameworks are quite crucial for the for the process and for proceeding with the building of charging infrastructure. We have the building infrastructure requirements regulatory on the left side. We see it, and this one makes sure that buildings are future-proofed, and it forces the developers and the builders to install infrastructure from day one. And this, yeah, lowers the future installation costs because as soon as you build a new building, you have to place the wires and you have to make at least the preparations to build charging infrastructure later. And it also says that buildings that are already there, like schools or clubs or even supermarkets, for example, they have to build charging infrastructure from time to time. So there are certain deadlines where, depending on the size of your parking lot, you need to build, for example, one or two charging points. And this shows that building charging infrastructure is not just some optional thing in Baden-Württemberg and in Germany. It shows that, especially for public buildings and for bigger buildings with a lot of parking lots, it is mandatory from the year 2026 on to at least prepare for charging infrastructure. and then from time to time build it up. Um, Another interesting thing is the energy law we have. It's a complex name, just like most of the laws. So it's the one we see in the middle. Um, it's about smart grid flexibility. So we all fear, I guess it's the same issue in Virginia. We fear that with more electric vehicles and with more electric consumption, that the grid will not handle this, and that there might be some bottleneck or collapse, maybe even. Um, so this law says that new consumption units like electric cars, batteries, heat pumps, um, they have the flexibility to be lowered down to 4.2. I don't know how you call it, like KW. I guess you know what I mean. So instead of canceling them completely, if there is a bottleneck, the local authorities or yeah, the utility can lower it down, and with that guarantee at least low voltage yeah, further consumption. Um, and that really helps for the planning. So if you have an electric car at your home, you know, no matter what time, no matter what day of the year, you can at least charge it on a low level, and there will never be a complete, yeah, blackout or closing down of the grid. Um, so with that flexibility, people have to pay less, which makes it attractive to participate in this flexibility regulation. Um, yeah, I think that's an interesting regulation, and makes it makes it quite easy for people to buy an electric car, and knowing that um, you always can charge it no matter how the capacity constraints are. Yeah, and as I said, in return, then if you gain the right um, to get discounts on your energy bill, and that's like a nice win-win system that was built here with this energy regulation. The third one I want to mention is the alternative fuels infrastructure regulation. This is a directive that sets some goals for the use of charging infrastructure. For example, it says that for all level 3 DC chargers, a direct credit card payment for ad hoc payment must be possible. So without any apps, without any registration or long-term um, contracts, you must be able to buy electricity close to the highway whenever you need it. Just like at a petrol station, that you can just spontaneously go there and buy it. So this ad hoc payment is fostered in this regulation. Um, and also, it sets some goals for price transparency, um, and also some goals for the availability of charges. Here we see it with the 60 kilometers along highways, but we also know that Baden-Württemberg already exceeds on that. So you can find charging infrastructure even before the 60 kilometers. Yeah, but this regulation is like to make it more attractive for people to know that you can always do the ad hoc payment, and you have some price transparency guarantees that are also important, I think, for people who are still thinking of, should I switch to an electric car, or should I keep my combustion car? This regulation can help to make it easier for people make it more attractive. Yeah, that was just a short insight. Of course, no specific details, but I guess quite a good overview of what was going on in Baden-Württemberg in the last month and years. Um, let's go to the next slide, which is already my last one. Some conclusions about the challenges we face. So, when I talk to the local authorities, they they all tell me that it's really difficult to even find places of where to build charging infrastructure. You all know it. Parking lots are full. Um, it's difficult to find parking spots in the neighborhoods for people who need to park their car. And especially in the big cities, this is really a challenge. If you do not want to take places, for example, from the pedestrian ways or from the cycling path, if you do not want to reduce other forms of mobility, then it's really difficult for them to find places of where to build up charging points. Also, they tell me that one of the biggest hurdles is the duration for grid connection. So sometimes we have durations of over 12 months, nearly 18 months often. So if you want to build charging infrastructure in an area where grid connection is not there yet or too low, then this is really a big challenge and often leads to not building charging infrastructure because it just takes too long and then is not well the money. Um, Yeah, and then of course, as I said, for the rural areas, we face different challenges as in the urban areas, and especially the rural areas tell me that they really need support from us, from the um, state agencies to support them with the networking activities that I talked about, with templates, with sample documents, to help them with their procurement processes, to help them with assessing their needs and find out where to put charging infrastructure and how to finance it. So that is the biggest work we're doing, I guess. You see some examples here in the two pictures. We have a lot of brochures for the municipalities and for citizens where we explain how to build charging infrastructure, what do you need to know, what is important for you, where to find documents, where to find further information, because yeah, we all know world is quite complex and it's really difficult for them to handle their limited time and make the best out of it. So yeah, that's the main goal of my work and the work of my colleagues to support this and to make it easier for the municipalities to proceed with their goals. Yeah, and that is all I wanted to give to you, and that's the insight I wanted to make. And I'm happy about your questions or discussions if you want to add something on it. Um,
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. So, our friend Ken Sandler writes, I'm curious if you're experiencing the same trends in Germany with ride-sharing apps like Uber, Lyft, and the push for autonomous vehicles, and to what extent you see these trends as helpful or as barriers to meeting your climate goals.
I think it's a bigger thing in the US than here, actually. So the carpooling is not that common yet. We see it actually only in the bigger cities, where parking lots are limited and people struggle a lot. And I think there, yes, it can help. Um, because people might buy less cars and use more carpooling, which helps, I think, less with climate, but more with the limited spaces and the traffic jams and the fully overloaded roads. Um, I think that's the main advantage we see with it. For climate, of course, it helps if we produce less cars, but yeah, if it's combustion cars in the carpooling, then there's not this big of a gain. Still, I think it's a useful thing in big cities where there are just too many cars and people can't even move with their cars because it's all crowded. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could walk us through too the thought processes and the policies that guided the discussions on electric vehicle charging stations versus hydrogen, because I'll never forget being in Stuttgart as a guest of Mercedes-Benz. Everyone was talking hydrogen. And it seemed at the time that there
Mhm.
may be this potential conflict between dual infrastructures,
Mhm.
but it feels now as if going fully electric is
Mhm.
probably the most feasible economic, social, environmental option. Um, and then in that
Yeah.
light, how this goal of reaching 60,000 public charging ports by 2030, if you don't reach the goal, the climate targets, whether you see an acceleration of the application of electric vehicle charging policies, programs, funding, or a diminishment, a reduction.
Mm. So to the first thing with the hydrogen, there was a lot of like in the big universities, they were all working on um, producing hydrogen in a very efficient way or try to make it less costly. But most of them found out in their F&E that it's just less economic than the electricity because you need electricity to produce hydrogen, and this energy can just be directly used in the car without losses in the meantime. So I think the common sense was from year to year that the only like really efficient technology with less losses is the direct usage of electricity to put it directly into the battery and directly to the movement of the car without processes in between to either produce artificial fuel or hydrogen. And I think that's why we had this shift in the industry as well. And now we nearly don't see hydrogen anymore. There were some models, I think Audi had one, and maybe you know it better. Some other OEMs had hydrogen cars, but I don't even think they are produced anymore. Maybe just for some innovation or
Mm.
highlighting expositions, for example, or some pilot projects, but not for the broader citizens. Yeah, and with the second one about the climate goals, it's really difficult to say. Like in Germany, we quite see a backlash on electric mobility. So there was this high like development like 5 years ago where everyone was okay, electric mobility and all the automotive suppliers and car producers were into it. And now with a change in the German government and also now in the Baden Wuerttemberg government um, to yeah, more conservative um, direction, we see that there's a lot of movement back to the combustion vehicles. And with that, I really fear these goals are unachievable. So um, I actually think it's clear we can't reach it. We can still try to do the best, and that's what we are doing in Baden-Württemberg. But yeah, if we want to do more for the climate, we have to do a completely different strategy from the German government than we are having now.
I guess that's my question, follow-up question is what will drive that then? If the climate goals aren't meeting it, it seems then it's more economic. And if it's more economic goals, then what is the driver, the policy driver, and
Mm.
the sets of goals that you will set for electric vehicle charging?
It's hard to say, but maybe we need more crisis um, with yeah, with the fuel industry, with the producers of fossil fuels. And if we see prices increasing there, then of course it gets more attractive to switch to electricity. And I think there is one very, very important thing about it. It's the independence of countries like the Arabic states, because the electricity, we can produce it where we are. We can produce it in Germany, we can produce it in Virginia. We have the sun, we have the wind. So actually, it should be quite a political issue to reduce the procurement of fossil fuels and to foster the independent generation of electricity with the own technologies. Um, but yeah, it's really hard to see that the German policy is really going direction the procurement of fossil fuels, and with that keep the dependency on politically very difficult countries where we actually want to keep the distance, but with the fossil consumption, we always stay in the dependency of them. And yeah, that's that's really political strategic issues that drive us there, I guess.
And then our friend Deep Polk asks, the decision to go full-scale electric will have grid consequences. And power is always a big challenge for Germany. Are there any innovations or tactics for the EV charging stations that you're using to meet demand?
Mm, sorry, again, what was the question? That the demand cannot be met, or
So the question is power supply, but particularly distribution in Germany is a huge issue. Are there
mm,
any innovations or tactics for EV charging stations that you're using to meet specifically to meet demand? In this
mm,
particular context, the energy supply rather than the demand by the consumers, I imagine.
mm. I think we will work a lot with battery storages in the future. I'm not sure if there are programs in Virginia as well yet. Um, so that we try to um, yeah, store the electricity whenever it's there and then provide it in the moment it's needed. And I think with more flexibility, for example, um, from bi-directional charging and using the own maybe even solar rooftops. I think we can improve that from time to time and then make sure that all the demands can be met. Um, but the regulations in Germany are not there yet. So until now, we can use our car to store the energy and put it back into our house, but we cannot yet use it to put it back to the grid. So to feed the power back into the grid, um, that's not possible at the moment. So yeah, I'm still waiting for this, and I think that would help a lot then um, for the demand side management and also for the whole needs we have. Yeah,
And it opens up some really interesting conversations too in the future about virtual power plants, battery storage, and
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see any other questions. Does anybody else wish to ask Caroline something before we break for lunch? Oh, there's another question that just popped up. Edward Cronin writes, how is your team planning for large demand megawatt sites and charging depots for medium and heavy duty vehicles?
Um, sorry, what was the first part of the question? What we do as a team to support it?
Basically, what's the state of Baden-Württemberg doing to meet large demand and charging depots for
Mm-hmm.
medium and heavy duty vehicles, megawatt sites?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I said, there is fundings for charging infrastructure and for procurement of the vehicles themselves. So as well from the nation of Germany and from the state of Baden-Württemberg. We really try to support with fundings because we know that investment costs are huge in this area. And we already see that some logistic logistic suppliers they are already switching um, because they also found out that it might be at some point cheaper to use electricity than fossil fuels. And for example, we as a state agency, we have a cost calculator, a tool, an online tool that companies, logistic companies, also municipalities can use and put in like how many kilometers will I drive a year, a day, how many people do I have, how many cars or how many trucks do I need, and then with that do some calculations to find out um, whether an electric truck might be useful or not, or might be cost efficient or not. And we get a lot of feedback that these tools really help to make some assessment because for many it's just a hurdle of not only the technology but also not knowing how much will it cost in the end, what investments do I have. So yeah, we still see the challenges that it's just such an unknown field. And yeah, that's why we try to inform. We have webinars, we have brochures, we have information events, um, and also like things like excursions. So we go as a delegation to a place where they use it already, and yeah, make sure that people learn from each other.
Fantastic. I don't see any other questions. It's getting very close to 1 o'clock. I just want to say thank you
Yeah.
so much, Carlene, for taking time. It's late in the evening on Wednesday. Thank you very, very much. Thanks to everybody that took part in this webinar. This is a regular series. We're going to do many, many more of them. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everyone for participating. And yeah, feel free to contact me. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.